Good morning. I want to say hello to everybody, and I welcome all of you back for an exciting closing session of our convention. And I'm going to kick off this section by introducing a really good friend and a great leader of American agriculture. Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue was born into a farming family in Bonaire, Georgia. He has gone on to do many things, including serving as governor of my great state of Georgia. But he hasn't forgot his agricultural roots. I was honored to join him for his swearing in last April, and I am honored to introduce him to you today. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm Farm Bureau welcome to the 31st Secretary of Agriculture, Sonny Perdue.
Hello, friend.
Thank you, my friend. They're loving it now. They're loving it.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Zippy, for that warm introduction. You know, Zippy and I go back a ways. He was running for the president of the Georgia Farm Bureau when I was running for re-election as governor. I was elected, and then he was elected, and I tried to call him and congratulate him about 3 or 4 times, and it was harder to get in touch with him than it was the governor. So that's how powerful the Farm Bureau is in Zippy Duval in Georgia. So we also share a special bond that you may or may not know about. I call it the Holstein bond. And Zippy and I have spent our time on a cold January morning with that tail slapping us across the face and getting our share of kicks on cold knuckles on the Holstein bond. So we go back, and I'm delighted that he has served as your president and doing a wonderful job, and it's a delight to be here with you. You know, during my time as governor, I was honored to appoint Zippy to serve on the Governor's Agricultural Advisory Committee and the Georgia Development Authority. So we've had a long and enduring partnership, and it even continues to today. In fact, I believe, we talked about this, I think it's the first time that 2 Georgia boys have held these jobs at the same time. In fact, he confirmed that he was the first Georgian to hold the presidency of the American Farm Bureau, and I know that I'm the first Georgian to be the Secretary of Agriculture. So, but we're looking forward to continuing to work together. But before we came on the scene, we know that the USDA and the American Farm Bureau Federation have had a great relationship, and it's absolutely one that we want to continue. In fact, speaking of relationships, I understand that my good friend Lawrence McCauley, the Minister of Agriculture from Canada, has already been with here and met with many of you, and I've been up to Canada to visit with him, and he joined me and Mary, his wife, and they did back in June for a meeting, a trilateral meeting between Secretary Calzada in Mexico as well as Minister McCauley, and we had a great time there and really personal bond. But I got a warning for you. You better watch Minister McCauley. He's pretty charming, and I don't want him to trade you out with that intriguing Prince Edward accent that he has. So I know there's a certain amount of anxiety about what's going on in trade these days, and so let's just talk about it for a minute. We know that trade is a key to rural and farm prosperity. Canada and Mexico continue to be major markets for United States exports. So a successful completion and improvement of the NAFTA negotiations remains a top priority of this administration. But to get a deal, we need all sides to seriously roll up their sleeves and get to work. We, the United States, have put a number of proposals on the table to modernize NAFTA and critically for agriculture to address key sectors left out of that original agreement, specifically dairy and poultry tariffs in Canada. Now, we want to ask our partners to the north, our negotiating partners, to step up and engage in meaningful conversation so we can get the deal done for them and for you. And for those of you who may see Minister McCauley going out, you might want to encourage him to get his negotiators to engage and get in the game. All that having been said, I want you to know that I have great faith in President Trump's skills as a negotiator, and I'm quite confident that he will strike the best deal possible for the United States, and that we will have a fair NAFTA agreement that works well for our economy, including the agricultural sector. And I know that you, the American Farm Bureau Federation, will be pulling for him because farm is in your name just after American. I feel right at home here. I want you to know that. I've been very comfortable walking the Florexpo floor and being able to speak to many of you here today among so many farmers, ranchers, foresters, producers. The American Farm Bureau Federation created a powerful partnerships among the farmers of America, the American Farm Bureau Federation, and those who make public policy. And you speak with a powerful voice. All the way back in 1944, Fortune magazine wrote an article on the American Farm Bureau and said, and I quote, "The Farm Bureau nearly always gets what it goes after. That's because you're united as a unit and you do your homework at home with your members of Congress. And that's because the policymakers listen to you. So I want to encourage you, I want to exhort you, do not ever stop speaking up for the American farmer. Your voice is powerful. No longer can we afford to hide behind the gates of our farms and expect the world to tell the truth about what we do, and you know that to be the case. As you know, the Farm Bureau has encouraged and supported youth groups, 4-H and FFA groups all across the country. These are the young people that we need to step in and to pursue careers in agriculture if we're going to be able to feed the world's growing population. You know the data on the aging of the American people. I tell American farmer, I tell these people, young people all the time, and that's the future is now. They don't have to wait until they're older. They can have positive impacts on their communities right now. As I visited some 60,000 plus FFAers in Indianapolis, I told them that they and we must be the best communicators and leaders and reach beyond our own operations to influence public policy. With the importance of social media these days, young folks can spread that information quickly, or in some cases, sometimes more importantly, correct misinformation. But that's also things that we as adults and older farmers have to do as well to deploy those tools. One of my favorite quotes on this point came from Winston Churchill, who it almost seems to be more appropriate now. He said one time, "A lie gets halfway around the world before the truth has a chance to get its pants on." And we know that in the social media world today. That's why we ever be vigilant in combating that and using the tools of this generation to get it done. So let me share with you the truth of my first 8 months in office, what you don't hear in the media and what you won't hear from those who want to make life difficult for our farmers. The truth that I want to share with you may not be as glamorous or headline grabbing, but here's what it is. We have already built a record of success in the Trump administration and at the United States Department of Agriculture. Let me just share a few things that we've been trying to communicate from USDA since I came on board, and some things we've achieved in just a little more than 8 months since I was sworn in. First and foremost, we wanted to reorient USDA with a focus on you, the producers, our customers. For too long, Washington has been primarily concerned with itself. The federal government became something for the people to serve rather than the other way around. So we got to work and reorganized our department. Now, I've often said that I'm a grow it and sell it kind of guy, and I want you to know if you keep growing it, USDA is going to do its very best to be out there help you to sell it. So let's talk about the grow it part. We unveiled a newly named Undersecretary for Farm Production and Conservation for a newly constituted mission area. What we did was take our things that face the customer and put them together, locating our domestic agricultural products programs in one place with a common focus on the areas where you, the farmers, have the most interaction with USDA. We situated the Farm Service Agency, the Risk Management Agency, or crop insurance, and the Natural Resources Conservation Service under one roof because that makes sense. We know those are interrelated today, and you have to deal with NRCS to get your program payments. And what we found is that common sense has been all too uncommon in Washington in recent years. We want to be responsive to you, the customer, because you're the ones out there in the fields every day. And it should be our job to make your jobs a little easier. Very soon, you're going to be hearing some exciting news about how we will connect with one another, how you in the field will interact with the services USDA provides through this new mission area, which we will call FPAC. These will be major, substantive, and beneficial changes to help you interface with us. There will be a new approach to having your government work for you rather than putting up obstacles and working against you. As you know, there's a new farm bill being formulated right now in Congress, and we understand it's the Congress's job to write the bill, but USDA will be right there providing whatever counsel Congress may request or require. And we've gathered a lot of input from you all that we have noted and will pass on to the lawmakers. Very soon, we'll be unveiling our Farm Bill principles, which we will sort of use as a roadmap to help Congress guide them along the way. Guess where we found those? It's going to be our way of letting Congress know what we've heard from each of you. That's where we got the roadmap. So I've told you I'm going to kind of grow it and sell it. Let's talk about the sell it part. We've made trade a priority with the creation of the first ever Undersecretary for Trade and Agricultural Affairs. And we've scored big victories in a matter of just a few months. You know, after 13 years, American beef is back in China. We signed a protocol to allow exports of U.S. rice to China for the first time ever. The European Union eased regulations on citrus exports. Vietnam resumed imports of American distillers' dried grain. American chipping potatoes are back in Japan. South Korea has lifted its ban on imports of U.S. poultry. And we struck a deal to get American pork back into Argentina for the first time since 1992. These are just a few of accomplishments in trade, and I'm looking forward to even more gains in 2018 with Undersecretary Ted McKinney traveling the world at a fast pace, knocking on every door we can to sell your products. I'm out there every day as well as an unapologetic salesman for American agricultural products. You might want to ask Minister McCullough about that and see what he says, because I might have mentioned the dairy issue to him once or twice as well. I don't want to spend all my time bragging on our accomplishments here, so let me just get to the kind of the red meat of what I want to talk to you about. Following President Trump's directive, USDA has begun rolling back excessive, onerous government regulations that have stood in your way, layered on after years. The president made it a 2-for-1 deal. For every new regulation, I thought you may like that. For every new regulation instituted, we had to get rid of 2 old ones. Well, administrative-wide, we did better than that. President Trump has cut out 22 regulations for every one new one that's come on the books. Now, that's a new way. I think you recognize that's a new way for the government to do business. Most of the farmers I hear and talk to just say, please just go get government out of our way and let us farm. I think chief among the regulations is the regulation that the president targeted was that hated waters of the U.S. rule, which you all woke on for so many years. You remember the ditch the rule effort that you all participated in last year. Here's more of that common sense that I was talking about. You know, sometimes a mud puddle is just a puddle, right? And we don't need the federal government coming in and regulating everything to death. At USDA, we've done our part in lifting the milestone of regulatory burden. We've already identified 27 final rules for 2018 that will save over $56 million annually. And friends, we are just getting started, but this is where you can really help out. We know that there must be rules and regulations that you encounter on a daily basis in your operations that are harmful and unproductive and an impediment to your productivity. We've identified a lot of them, but frankly, you're bound to know about even more of them. So we want you to bring to our attention so that we can take a look at those and see if there's something we can do about bringing you some relief. You know, there's an old joke, if you want to know what farmers are thinking, they'll tell you. And if you don't know what farmers are thinking, they'll tell you anyway. But today, I want you to know we're asking, what are the regulations that are standing in the way of your productivity and prosperity? And I want you to know you can visit our website to let us know privately what those are. When you came in today, there was a card on your seat. You should have all received a little card with our Rural Prosperity website on it. And take a look at that. I want to invite you specifically and personally to go to that website and privately communicate the silliest, most onerous rules that you think hold you back. Let us know your thoughts about specific regulations, and I want to invite you to do that today. Later today, President Trump is going to address this convention. The last sitting president to address the American Farm Bureau Federation was President George H.W. Bush in 1992, over 25 years ago. And now, a president who hails from the largest metropolitan area in this country is coming to speak to a group whose members, whose work, and whose lives dot the map with small towns and fertile fields and valleys all across this wonderful country. That, my friends, is a testament to the importance that he places on rural America as the breadbasket of the world and one of the stalwart engines of our national economy. And it is proof of the importance that he places on all of us, rural, urban, north, south, east, west, and midwest, working together to make our country even greater. This is an important point. We hear a lot about corporate farming, but you know the truth. Our Economic Research Service just released its report on farming. 99% of American farms are family farms. Family farms account for more than 90% of all U.S. ag production. And here's what the president understands. He knows that family farms are also small businesses. He knows that you must turn a profit in order to provide for your family. Well, the good news is help is not only on the way, it's already here, and it was signed just before Christmas. Just in time for Christmas, President Trump signed the Tax Cut and Jobs Act. This sweeping tax reform will give much needed tax relief and create jobs. Because of President Trump's leadership and determination, you, ladies and gentlemen, will be more to keep more of what you earn. You know, farming is a great lifestyle, but you got to make a little money to stay in it, right? You'll be able to reinvest in your operations and take care of your families. And I want to make a point of congratulating Congress on listening to you, the people, getting these tax cuts and reforms passed in time for Christmas. There was a tremendous misinformation campaign put on leading up to that vote, as you may know. According to the polls, most Americans believe their taxes were going to go up as a result of this package, when the exact opposite was true. When Americans see their taxes go down and their paychecks go up, I think they will all know that President Trump's leadership was vital in making this happen. So you can see, demonstrably through actions and not mere words, that this president and his entire administration have made America, rural America, a priority. And that's ultimately the reason that we will hear from the president later today. On the day I took my oath of office, President Trump signed an executive order creating the Interagency Task Force on Agriculture and Rural Prosperity, and he asked me to chair that task force. We took seriously our charge to investigate circumstances and situations in the rural areas of our country, to formulate concrete solutions to situations limiting prosperity, and to report back to the president. And anyone who knows how the president operates will understand that when he signs an executive order, it's not an executive suggestion. And today, we will publicly present our final report to President Trump. So to introduce the task force and its work to you, I want to play this short video just to show you what it's all about. Watch the screens with me. We're here this morning by virtue of an executive order that our president signed.
This is promoting agriculture and rural prosperity in America to make life better for our rural community folks.
And this really affects all of our agencies to some degree.
The President has asked us to come together as a team.
This is a mission that I and my colleagues at HUD carry on our heart.
Are we going to make living in a rural area better? You better believe it.
These are places that are off the beaten path, but they are critical to the fabric of American life.
The President is very, very focused on agriculture and rural communities and exports.
He's charged us to report back to him all the barriers to rural prosperity and agricultural productivity. Our goal at USDA. Well, I'm learning and listening. We're meeting with farmers all over the upper Midwest.
We've got to make rural prosperity true. And so that's what I want to hear from you. What's working? What are the impediments? And what are the needs? Who wants to go first?
The people in that barn today are the roots of American society, the great farmers and producers, great American spirit in there. I'm here today to listen and to talk about issues that matter to rural America and to make sure that our rural areas are prosperous. During our RV tours and working with my counterparts from other cabinet departments, we came up with a report on how we think we can help rural America succeed and thrive. Don't forget, it's your opportunity to continue to give us your ideas. Although we weren't able to see everyone, we took a long journey and got a lot of great ideas. But it's fitting that we're doing this here today at your annual meeting because you're the people who live every day with the policy decisions made in Washington, D.C. And you know that the overall economy is booming again, and for that we're thankful and optimistic. But anyone who lives in what used to be called the flyover country knows that rural America has not exactly kept pace. Urban and suburban populations continue to climb while the population in rural areas has remained stagnant. These are the problems that we aim to solve. Formed out of 22 cabinet departments and federal agencies, the task force enthusiastically embraced the challenges before it. It to understand the issues that keep rural America from thriving, to develop a set of solutions to address those issues, and to tear down the walls among, within, between levels of government that inhibit that growth. And we knew of no better way of assessing the situation than to speak directly to the people of the heartland. And so, as Secretary of Agriculture, I hit the road. Since my first day in office near the end of April, I've traveled over 30 states listening to the people of American agriculture about what's working and what's not. Excuse me, it's sort of a barnstorming tour as we moved around the country, gathering information for our mission of increasing rural prosperity. We embarked upon 2 RV tours covering over 2,200 miles in the Midwest and the Northeast. As we traveled from place to place, it was clear that people believed that folks in Washington, D.C. had stopped listening to rural America over the years. In fields, dairy barns, machine sheds, and front yards, thousands of people turned out for town hall meetings to express their frustrations and offer suggestions. In short, we found a real hunger from citizens who just wanted to be heard. Rural Americans were tired of slogans, lip service, and benign or purposeful neglect. Let me just share a few specific examples. These were heartwarming to me. 150 people got out on a cold, snowy morning in rural upstate New York, crowding into a dairy barn to ask questions and to give input on rural issues. 250 people busted out the seams of an old machine shed in rural Minnesota on a late Friday afternoon. 150 people came to a Sunday afternoon session in the Central Valley of California. 800 people showed up and filled essentially a gymnasium floor in rural Montana. 100 people filled the front lawn of the Massachusetts Farm Bureau president on a Thursday afternoon. 500 folks filled a rodeo floor in Kansas City with almost no notice. 100 people piled under a tent in a cornfield almost an hour outside of Springfield, Illinois. And then 120 college kids interested in the future of agriculture, rural prosperity, came to Florida A&M University in Tallahassee to offer fresh, innovative ideas. And let me tell you what you ought to be really proud of. The Farm Bureau was there at every stop. State Farm Bureaus got the word out, brought people in for those town halls, those round tables, and the listening sessions. Sometimes the State Farm Bureau president hosted the event at their own place. We had help from people like David Fisher of New York, Kevin Papp of Minnesota, Jim Holt of Wisconsin, Richard Goubert of Illinois, Paul Winger of California, Steve Nelson of Nebraska, Craig Hill of Iowa, Ed Davidian of Massachusetts, and Don Tuller of Connecticut. That's who the American Farm Bureau Federation truly is, and you ought to give yourselves a hand for those presidents. The people spread across this great country, all working toward the same purpose, and you and people like you across the country are who we heard from. The result is a report that identifies legislative, regulatory, and policy changes to promote agriculture, economic development, growth, job growth, infrastructure improvements, technological innovation, energy security, and quality of life in rural America. Ladies and gentlemen, we envision a rural America with world-class resources, tools, and support to build a robust, sustainable community for generations to come. The report that I will present to the President will contain over 100 practical, actionable recommendations in 5 key areas: e-connectivity, quality of life, rural workforce, technology, and economic development. The President, I can tell you, is biting at the bit to talk with you, and I expect he'll probably be tweeting a lot about it as well. In fact, I might tweet about it too at Secretary Sonny. But I want to thank you for the tremendous honor of appearing with you today and to be presenting our important report on rural prosperity to the President of the United States. This is a rare opportunity for all of us in this room, and I'll say this. As I've said, since I became the Secretary of Agriculture, traveling to more than those 30 states, 6 foreign countries, the one thing I will never do is apologize for the greatness of America. We are an exceptional nation. We should never apologize. We have no reason to apologize. And one of the biggest reasons that we are the envy of the world is gathered right here in this room representing the farmers of America. You feed this country and the world with all of your labors every day. One of our greatest founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson, wrote, and I quote, "Cultivators of the earth are the most valuable citizens. They are the most vigorous, the most independent, the most wedded to its liberty and interest by the most lasting bonds." That is you, ladies and gentlemen. The most lasting bonds are the bonds of faith. The bonds of faith are directly tied to our liberty. Every time you plant a seed in the ground, you're exhibiting your faith in a bountiful harvest. There's nothing more American than that. I'm humbled to be here with you today to serve as your Secretary of Agriculture. For me, this is not a job, it's a mission. We touch the lives of all Americans and countless others around the world. So I leave you with the words of our new motto at USDA: do right and feed everyone. May God bless the American Farm Bureau. May God bless your families, and may God continue to bless the wonderful, great United States of America. God bless you. Sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.